rush, adrenaline rush now. Adrenaline rush, adrenaline rush now. Adrenaline rush, adrenaline rush now. Adrenaline rush, adrenaline rush now.
Yeah, me is what she said.
People see old people and they have this idea about what old people are like. Old people are all like my grandma. She just lets the world know her thoughts. You know what I mean?
Yes.
All right, let's do Impact. I'm exhausted.
Impact was a show.
For that segment.
There's nothing terrible on it, but I found it mostly kind of boring, honestly. They were in England, so Bad Influence came out in kilts and Braveheart makeup. They said it was Throwback Thursday. They were throwing back to the 13th century, paying tribute to the true warriors of the United Kingdom, the Scots. This got massive heat. They blamed Daniel's loss last week to Jeff Hardy and specifically his makeup because it was toxic and it had sent Daniels into shock. He vowed to win the world title someday and defend it against the English because there's nobody easier to beat. This brought Magnus out. Should mention that the crowd and the building was one of the coolest looking, seriously, in TNA history. There's a lot of sweetening going on, I noticed, throughout the show, but as far as visual appeal, they should never leave this building. So Magnus said that basically he accepted their challenge to fight an Englishman, and the brawl broke out, and he sent them both packing. Keneally said Magnus was, quote, slinging them around like haggis. No one should sling around haggis.
It's Keneally, by the way, I was alerted.
It is Keneally?
Yeah.
I like Keneally. So he cut a promo on the Aces and Eights.
Like Keneally from Hell? Just remember that.
And he called out Devon because they had beat him up last time he'd been seen. Magnus and Devon had a completely forgettable average match. Magnus appeared to have the win with a Michinoku driver. Aces and Eights hit the ring for the DQ, but he fought off Devon and Doc and Mike Knox by himself. These invaders blow.
I was annoyed with the finish. You were busy playing Mighty Bomb Jack. This actually was a pretty decent match. And Magnus got over huge! So he comes out, he gets over huge. Everybody loves Magnus. He challenges Devon. Devon comes out, title's on the line. They have a back and forth, pretty good match. And then the Geeks just ran in for the DQ. And I was like, you had a chance here in the UK to make Magnus a star in one night, as best as can be done in 2013. All you had to do was have him beat Devon and win the title. But no. They had to have a disqualification when Geeks ran in after I devoted all of this time and effort into watching this match and watching this guy get over with the crowd he's in front of. That'd be one thing if, for example, Miz was in LA and Antonio Cesaro was the champion, and it's like, all right, Miz got over big, but you know what? Now is not the time to take the title off Antonio Cesaro. What's the deal with Devon? What the hell does Devon need the television title for?
So you got to protect that prestigious Aces and Eights winning streak.
So he can have a bad match on television every week? There's like no single reason anyone could give me as to why Devon needed to keep the TV title, and you couldn't have just had Magnus beat him and win the title and get over as a babyface and maybe make something resembling a star in TNA. Instead, we just got a lame DQ finish. Was annoyed!
Bully Ray and Brooke and Sting were trying to figure out if Hulk would be there. Joe Park came to the ring to call somebody out. Before he could, Robbie E and Robbie T interrupted. Robbie E started running down the UK. This pissed off Robbie T because, of course, he is Welsh. That amused me. E apologized. Said Robbie T was basically American anyway. He dared Park to pick him, and Joe accepted. So we had Joe Park versus Robbie E. Robbie E is totally underutilized. He's funny and he can work. And Joe Park is progressing. He went from not being able to wrestle at all to being a shitty guy with like 2 moves, and now he's a pro wrestler who just has a very, very limited archaic moveset.
He does an Ohio Valley opening match.
Yes, he does body slams and arm drags a lot.
Great!
Yes. And finally, he hit a big fired-up comeback, and he had a belly-to-belly suplex and a middle rope splash. I told you, from the 70s. For the win! And he celebrated this win over Robbie E. like Kurt Angle in Atlanta in 1996.
Joe Park has got by far the best facial expressions in all of wrestling. And he is a man who wore a mask for a decade.
Yes.
Amazing. He did have the best celebration ever when he beat Robbie E.
He got the W.
He got a pinfall over Robbie E.
Bobby Roode and Austin Aries got a promo in the ring. They said a lot of people in this company were stealing money. But he and Roode continue to be robbed. They vowed to win all the titles, including the women's belt. And they were going to start with the tag titles. They started running down the champs until Hernandez and Chavo came out. And Hernandez and Chavo, their rebuttal to this verbal duel. Well, Chavo's.
God, they're terrible baby faces.
Hernandez didn't say anything. Chavo whined about how they had cheated last time, and he was very annoying. And eventually it was somehow agreed that even though their claim was Roode and Aries did not deserve a title shot because they had never been in a tag team match. Or they were not a tag team. So to prove that they were worthy of a tag team shot, they would have a singles match. So it was Austin versus Chavo. Here's where I really noticed how much crowd sweetening they were doing, as the crowd in the background sure was not moving for a crowd that got louder and quieter at various points. So Chavo hit the frog splash. There was distraction from Roode and Hernandez, and Austin Aries then kicked Chavo right in the face with both feet and hit him with a brainbuster for the win. And that was that. So they get a title shot. Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, Garrett Bischoff, and Wes Briscoe had a meeting. Kurt wanted Anderson one-on-one in a cage. Joe guaranteed him that would happen. Wes and Garrett wanted to help. Joe told them to fuck off. He may as well have used those exact words. And, this is not a tape shell to spoil this. Joe deserved to get laid out and turned on. He's a dick.
You know what's funny is, like, I gotta say one thing about Samoa Joe. His character is consistent.
He hates everyone.
Whether he is a babyface or a heel, he's just a giant cock to everybody. All the time. He's always in a bad mood. Yeah. He's always pissed off. He's
always a dick.
Remarkably consistent character. Yeah, but the problem is exactly in this scenario here. It's like I did not feel bad for Joe getting jumped.
No,
he was a complete dick to these two.
He had it coming. Bully came out with Brooke, begged Hulk to lift his suspension. Says Sting was the one man who could get Hulk to do it. Sting came out. He got the crowd to chant Hulk's name. And then Hulk Hogan appeared. I'm trying to think of how much money I would pay to watch Hulk Hogan versus Great Khali in a foot race. These are two unhealthy men. So Hulk talked for a while, ran his mouth like he always does. So he always did the right thing about 7,000 times. Finally reinstated Bully. And then he booked Bully and Sting versus two aces and ace guys in a tables match for next week. And he shook Ray's hand, and he put Brooke in Ray's arms, and he gave her, not the thumbs up, he gave them the A-OK sign.
He's A-OK.
He is A-OK. Saw Velvet's boobs walking around backstage.
I don't know what she was wearing, but it appeared that she was measuring her bust on the way to the ring.
Yeah.
You can check this out. I'm not kidding.
We had the announcement from Dixie that Impact would be going on the road starting in March, live from Chicago. Velvet Sky and James Storm versus Tara
By
and
the
Jesse.
way, that Dixie thing, it's like they plugged it. I mean, they plugged this the past week. They plugged this on Impact. They plugged this on Twitter. They plug this big announcement. And literally, upon coming back from a commercial break, it was a brief taped segment that was then over. I was like, wow. They sure built that up and it was nothing. You know?
Yeah.
I thought she'd at least come to the ring and announce, you guys in the UK are so great. We've decided to go on the road and we're going to come back from television. Everyone would go, yay! Instead, it was like she'd sent a tout.
It was, actually. That is true. Velvet and James Storm versus Tara and Jesse. James Storm officially has nothing to do anymore. Just team with random people with random other feuds.
Whatever happened to AJ?
Vanished. Flat out vanished. So, the highlight here was when Kennelly, he said something that annoyed Taz, and Taz literally on the air threatened to have him murdered.
Yes. Kennelly said something, and Taz begins with, "What are you, a smartass?" And then, in fact, he threatened to kill him. Threatened to kill him. Would you like to end up 6 feet under, I believe he said? He threatened to put a hit out on Todd Kennelly. And like, Taz was very believable. If I heard Todd Kennelly, I'd quit being a smartass right now.
Yeah. That's a good point. So, Velvet pinned Tara with a pedigree. Storm didn't even stick around to celebrate with her. He just left. He's done with this shit. Had an interview with Hulk talking backstage, and
I think Taz threatened that he'd end up in a body bag.
that sounds right. Yeah.
I think that's what he said. Which is not just like chilling.
No, he meant dead.
Yeah.
So Hulk's talking backstage and cutting a promo with the camera guy, and he says Ray had taken a beating for his doctor. That meant he was okay, and he said they were family and they were in this together, and his wedding gift was going to be to let Ray kill the Aces and Eights dudes in a tables match. And he finishes up his promo, and he's about to stop, and before the cameraman can just hit the stop button, Brooke pipes in with, "Oh, that's like giving candy to a baby." She just couldn't let this in without getting a word in. She had to get her camera time.
Well, yeah.
That annoyed me. Anderson did a promo saying he got more support and brotherhood from the Aces and Eights than he ever had in TNA. I'm sure that's true.
I've been very critical of Anderson, but he's actually been very good the last... I think part of it is I don't have to listen to that stupid ring entrance anymore with the mic. And I can't quite put my finger on what it is. It's like when you see him do promos or in skits backstage, he looks like just he's a total burnout that doesn't give a shit and is collecting a paycheck. And then he gets to the ring, he's been having good matches with everybody. So, I don't know. But I've been a Mr. Anderson fan for the last month or so.
Wow.
And he sure as hell worked his ass off in the main event.
That is true.
Granted, it was with Kurt Angle, but still. You know? Kurt Angle has had poor matches with people, including Devon. But he had a hell of a match with Mr. Anderson in the main event.
And that was the main event. Kurt Angle versus Mr. Anderson in a cage. Oh, I forgot. Joe was taken out backstage. Deservedly so. Hope they hurt him real good. Kurt ordered Garrett to stay there and watch... ordered Garrett to stay there and watch Joe, and he dragged West to the ring with him to watch his back. Then we had Kurt and Anderson in a cage. Taz was gloating about his win over Kurt at the Royal Rumble in, I believe, 2000. Anderson did, in fact, look better here than he has in months. I don't know how much of that was Angle. I don't know how much of it was Anderson, but it's true.
Probably quite a bit was Angle, to be fair, although I think Mr. Anderson would admit the same.
Yeah. Angle was going out of his way to, it's not like Kurt Angle ever half-asses it, but he was in full Kurt Angle mode this evening. They were fighting on the ropes. There's a cage match. They're standing on the top rope fighting, and Anderson drops down and he crotches Kurt. And Kurt, he fell like he weighed about 8 times his actual weight. And
right on his balls.
Balls first, right on the ropes. You could not have done this any more painful. Did a top rope angle slam, kicked out of the mic check, and Anderson was trying something in the corner, and Kurt powerbombed him hard, and Anderson kicked out of that, and Kurt hit the ankle lock and won. This was a hell of a TV main event. So Angle wins, and a masked Aces and Eights dude runs out and climbs the cage.
All by himself.
All by himself. And Wes unlocks the cage, climbs in the door, locks the cage behind him. So you've got Kurt and Wes squaring off against one masked man. Anderson is still dead in the corner. And then the masked man pulls off his mask. He reveals Garrett Bischoff. everyone was confused, and when Kurt goes after him, Wes clips his knee from behind, and he put the boots to him, and as the beating is commencing, Taz is screaming something about how a plan came together. Anderson lost. Your plan is Anderson losing.
Angle won the battle, but he lost the war.
This invasion is shit.
The thing that annoyed me about it was I thought the cage match was great. I thought the reveal, I mean, the fans did get into the reveal. I thought it was a good touch when Wes Briscoe undid his ponytail so you could see that he was, in fact, the long-haired guy in Aces and Eights.
Oh, yeah.
But
good point.
The one thing I didn't like, and actually I really didn't like this, is the storyline has been that these men are masks and their anonymity is their power.
Yeah.
Now, why the fuck their anonymity is their power, I still don't have that explained to me. I thought their power was just in their numbers. You know what I mean? Like, was Aces and Eights better off before Mike Knox was unmasked? Like, what the hell difference does it make whether he had a mask on or not? But that's what they say. The power is in the anonymity. And every time somebody gets unmasked, they are threatened to be kicked out of the group or they have their legs broken or whatever. Actually, that never happened. But the point is, you're not supposed to lose your mask. You suffer if you lose your mask in Aces and Eights. So, why did Garrett and Wes Briscoe voluntarily unmask and reveal themselves? Why didn't they just beat up Kurt in their masks as usual? Why are they unmasked now? Hopefully this is explained on television because it makes, in fact, not a lick of sense. Of course, the strength and anonymity makes no sense either, but I am a friendly enough viewer to go along with that storyline. However, this storyline now makes no sense because these guys voluntarily unmasked. So that I did not like.
On top of that, this is a minor detail, but Wes looks so much cooler with his mask on.
Well, maybe you'll put it back on.
Yeah, just put the mask back. It's a badass mask, dude.
And maybe I'm nitpicking, but I was mildly annoyed when Garrett unmasked and everybody started to boo, and maybe he's just a wonderful heel, but when they all booed and like the attention, when you're Garrett, the attention should have been on Kurt. Like, we fooled Kurt. Let's kick the shit out of Kurt. Let's keep our eyes on him. Instead, Garrett had to look around at the crowd with a proud smile on his face and to say, look at this heat I'm getting. I'm a heel now. That annoyed me. Pay attention to the task at hand, which is kicking the shit out of Kurt Angle. Anyway, that was the Impact show. I thought the show was solid. It wasn't a bad show. It wasn't a great show, but it certainly had a hell of a main event. And it was a main event atmosphere for TNA. And I don't know if they're going to get crowds like this when they leave the UK. Like Dixie promised they're coming to our town. I strongly suspect they're not going to go to the Eagles Lodge in Bothell. So my guess would be Kent, which drew about, I think, 800 last time, which is not going to look like the UK. In fact, that would be less people than show up at the Impact Zone. So, not sure, but hey, they're trying something. So, good for them. All right, everybody. Show's over. To the back!
WWE selection at discountpartysupplies.com. There's a napkin with a mean picture of Randy Orton. Another one with a very excited Rey Mysterio. And then a paper plate with CM Punk.
Oh.
In case you want to eat and one with John Cena, in case you want to eat your meal off of CM Punk's chest. Which...
I don't want to do that.
But you can. For the low, low price of... for an 8-pack, only $1.98.
That's pretty good. Yeah. That's a hell of a prize pack for $49.99 then. Dunn can't even imagine what we'll get.
Wide selection. The prize is the WWE pack. They have a wide selection of other things here, like Thor, Scooby-Doo, Muppets.
Muppets, you say?
Lego Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Birthday Blue, which is just blue and generic. That's what your grandma buys you when she doesn't know you that well. Bunch of stuff, anyway.
Well, check it out, everybody.
Yeah. Karate Party.
DiscountPartySupplies.com. All right, let's do Impact.
Impact was a show. It was the last show in London, which made me sad because these shows have been pretty good shows, and the environment has been better than the Impact Zone ever was. So Hulk came out. He said last week he had been interrupted before he had a chance to name the number one contender. You recall he had set up 4 matches, and whoever impressed him the most in these 4 matches would get the title shot. Well, with an extra week to think about it, he said, I have decided to give the title shot to Bully Ray, who was not in one of the 4 matches. And somehow the 8 men involved did not come out outraged. James Storm and Magnus in particular, who won their matches, they were fine with the title shot going to someone else. So Ray came out. He was confused. He was surprised. He claimed he had partially torn his quad in the tables match. Hulk called him the toughest guy in the company. Ray said all he wanted to do was to make Hulk proud, and if he wanted to win the world title because it would make Hulk and Brooke happy. For tonight, he wanted a 6-man with the aces and eights against himself, Sting, and Hulk Hogan. And he gave Hulk the big finger point, and Hulk sold it like Ric Flair. Then Hulk said, all right, I'll wrestle. Out of the blue, just like that.
After over a year.
And then he just walked to the back like it was no big deal.
Boy, Bully Ray was an insincere babyface here.
Yes.
I love it.
This is going to be so awesome.
I like this slow turn that you see coming. I hope they don't swerve us. I'll be really upset, for example, if Hulk Hogan joins Aces and Eights.
Yeah, that would suck.
I'll be infuriated. Although it's been a long time since I've been infuriated about this program, so far so good.
We had a fun segment that I could not do justice to, but Rude and Aries were backstage bickering when Daniels and Kazarian arrived. They talked about the 8-man tag tonight and who would be in charge. And Daniels and Kazarian told them to follow our lead, and that led to Aries and Rude saying, we're not going to follow your lead, we're going to follow my lead. And the guy said, no, we'll follow my lead, and blah, blah, blah. We then had the best 8-man tag team match of all time ever. Frankie Kazarian, Chris Daniels, Austin Aries, and Bobby Roode against Chavo Guerrero, Hernandez, or as Daniels called him, Sean, and James Storm and Joe Park. So first they did a bunch of comedy spots with Joe Park, where he's still new at this whole wrestling thing, but he was accidentally beating guys up, and sometimes even in spite of himself. It was during this match we got our first plug of King Mo's fight.
Oh.
It just it got funnier. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
So Joe is running wild, and while he is green, a greenhorn, as he once said, he's still very, very large, and so none of the heels wanted to tag in with him. And finally, Daniels cut him off, and instantly everyone else stuck their hand out and said, tag me, tag me! That was awesome. They finally, he got a hot tag to Storm. Rude and Aries walked out, left Cass and Daniels alone, and everyone hit a big move, and it all led up to they brought Park into the ring, and they helped him climb to the middle rope. He had a big splash for the win. He had a better celebration here than Kurt Angle did when he won his gold medal. Everyone was cheering and going crazy. This was so much fun.
Joe Park is the best. This match was the match of the year. Not really, but
so far,
I seriously enjoyed this match. It's just fun pro wrestling.
Yes.
Every single character in this match was great. Everybody was, well, maybe not Mexican American so much, but all the heels, Joe Park, James Storm. I mean, it was pretty phenomenal.
We had Robbie E versus Rockstar Spud.
Yeah.
They have not explained what makes this man a rock star. For that matter, they have not explained what makes him a spud.
Well, he's a spud because he's the size of...
a potato?
Yeah. He's small.
He's actually a very skinny potato. He is a small wrestler. He looked totally fine out there. He did. He ran wild. He went for a top rope leg drop. He got the crowd going crazy. And then Robbie E moved, and Spud landed right on his ass.
Apparently his finisher is a leg drop off the top rope.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
All right. So...
That's what they were pointing out. It was a big finish, and it was a leg drop off the top rope.
And Kennelly knew this.
Mm-hmm.
So, Robbie E tried to grab the clipboard from Robbie T at this point. I don't know why. He was winning. The ref was right there looking at him. Robbie 2 wouldn't let it go, and they had a tug of war, and then Robbie E turned around and Spud had a roll-up for the win. The two Robbies had a stare down. E was screaming at him and shoving him and pie-facing him, and finally he slapped him hard across the face. And Robbie T tore off his shirt, and then Robbie E became great. Or at least he's always been great, but he demonstrated his greatness here. He recoiled in horror at the sight of Rob Terry with his shirt off. He attempted to flee, but he got trapped in the ropes in the funniest manner possible. Finally, he escaped, and he went to the back. And Robbie E is great. What I got out of this.
He's pretty good.
And a 4-way women's match. Tara versus Brooke Tessmacher versus Velvet Sky and Gail Kim. Brooke Hogan came out to watch. Now, what did you say, Brian, about her entrance? You remind me. I've forgotten.
I said that her entrance is all about shaking her boobies.
Actually, what you said, close. You said she came out and shook her titties.
I never use that terminology.
You rewound it to demonstrate, and then you imitated it.
I did no such thing.
I was so disturbed.
I got some cleavage on me.
So
Brooke's entrance consists of her music plays, she walks down the entrance ramp, and then she looks right into the camera, and she shakes her
chest
mammaries. She does. That is her entrance. And then she continues walking to the ring. And in fact, I wasn't sure that everyone in the room knew what I meant when I said that, or when I rewound it and watched it again. So I proceeded to shake my heaving pectoral muscles in a sultry manner.
That's not the word I would have used.
Vinny nearly died. I, honest to God, didn't think you were looking. I actually demonstrated this for my wife.
That's even creepier.
Like, look, I can shake my titties. And then I looked up, and you looked down quickly.
Oh, I was looking down. Oh, I felt down.
Things happen, everybody.
So they had a match.
Why was Brooke there? I was too busy watching her shimmy. I don't even know what the point of her being there was.
To watch.
Why?
I don't know.
All right.
She announced she was going to be there to watch. She came out to watch. She was there and she watched. I don't have a better answer for you. It's a good question. That's the best I can do. So they did a parade of finishers where everyone hit a big move, and Tara hit a big moonsault, but then turned around and Velvet hit her with a pedigree, and Gail stole the pin, which makes no sense since it was an elimination match. But Tara was out first, so we were guaranteed a new champion. They did the powerbomb superplex spot, which is scary when anyone does it. It's horrifying when Velvet Sky is involved. I don't think anyone died. Velvet went on to pin Tessmacher, my notes read. Don't know how, I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they showed no replay. Velvet was wearing carpeted boots like Bruiser Brody's, so they were hot pink. Not like Bruiser Brody's. So she tries to sunset flip out of the corner, and Gail grabs the ropes. And apparently this is a rules violation. I've actually seen, not in a long time, but I've seen this finish before.
I never really thought about it till I watched it here. But, like, if you're being pinned and you grab the ropes, the referee has to break up the pin. But if someone does a sunset flip and you grab the ropes, that's not allowed.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about it until tonight, of all times. You've seen the spot a million times where the babyface goes for the sunset flip, heel grabs the top rope, referee tells him to let go, heel doesn't let go, referee kicks his hands and falls into the sunset flip.
Yeah.
I've seen it a million times.
I've seen this all my life, and it's never made sense to me.
But it never. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they did like a setup that made sense in the course of the match to make the sunset flip spot look good. But for some reason, in the show today, like the ropes were grabbed, and so Tiffany was like, with both hands, trying to violently break the grip.
Yeah.
And I was just watching it like, why are you doing this? Why isn't she allowed to grab the ropes? So I actually don't understand this rule at all. It makes no sense to me.
Regardless, Taryn yanked Gail off the ropes, and Velvet hit her pedigree and won. So she's the new champion. And Brooke presented her with a belt, and they celebrated.
I always thought the thing was like heels trying to grab the ropes for leverage, like on a pinfall.
Well, yeah, that's the key.
Because you can't pin somebody and grab the ropes for... That's not allowed.
That would be illegal.
But if you're just standing there and someone's going for a move and you grab the ropes to stop it, like, why is that not allowed?
I don't know.
I was just baffled here.
We had Sting met with Hulk Hogan, and they didn't really have much to say. So Sting walks out the door. He walks 3 feet down the hallway. He walks into the very next door, and there's Bully Ray, and Ray says, "How did it go?" Like, you couldn't hear any of this. So they established it was fine. Ray was marking out for getting a tag with Sting and Hogan. And Sting went out the door, and he said, "Let's go tear some heads off." Only he said it not enthusiastically, not as a battle cry, but almost like it was a chore. Let's go tear some heads off. Made me laugh. Samoa Joe versus Garrett Bischoff. All Garrett had to do was sell for Joe's offense, so this was his best match ever. And finally, Wes Briscoe hit the ring for the DQ. Joe kicked his ass too, because the Aces and Eights suck. They finally overwhelmed him. Then Angle ran down to chase them off. Then Angle grabbed a mic, and he announced that at lockdown, it would be himself versus Wes in a cage.
To which Taz basically replied, "Why is this allowed?
Well,
Why is he allowed to make his own matches?"
yes, and we don't have an answer for Taz's question.
I don't know why.
Taz is getting screwed here. Or at least Wes is. Kenny King versus RVD. We had more King Mo related humor. Mike Tenay asked Taz, "How difficult is it to do what King Mo was doing?" Taz said, "Very difficult."
I'll say, for those of you listening that don't know what happened, King Mo in the semifinals of this Bellator tournament got knocked out.
Yep.
And he was expected to win the tournament, become the champion, and he, of course, is signed to Bellator and TNA.
Yeah.
And has never wrestled a single time for TNA, I might add, but he has been training in Ohio Valley. But, yeah, looks like he'll be perhaps debuting sooner rather than later now.
He might.
Oops.
Yeah. Real fighting.
Yep.
Stuff happens. So, Kenny King wrestled Rob Van Dam in a match that was very, very fun to watch. I don't think it was very fun to wrestle in, particularly if you are Kenny King. Everything Rob did looked like it killed him. I know it's hardly new. And finally, he killed him with Rolling Thunder, and then killed him with a Frog Splash, and he won. It was fun. We had Brooke and Hulk walking backstage. She wanted to make sure he was okay to wrestle. He assured her everything would be fine. He'd be fighting alongside Bully Ray and Sting. For the second week in a row, he called Sting the greatest wrestler that ever lived. So he goes through a door, and Brooke says, quote, "Have fun."
Have fun.
Have fun.
Like she forgot it's supposed to be real.
Like he was not going...
Like he was going to go work a match.
Yeah.
Have fun, Dad. Be safe.
Have fun. This is going out there to go to war with the men who have a long history of violently injuring people and ruined her wedding. Have fun! It's time for the main event. Devon and Doc and Mr. Anderson against Sting and Ray and Hulk Hogan. Only they played Hulk's music and he never showed up. So they did a 3-on-2 match. It was fine. Ray came in supposedly with a torn quad muscle. They never worked that into the match at all.
Actually, I think it's a real torn quad muscle.
That's right, Dave did say that. So he made a hot tag with Sting. Sting ran wild. And they were going to do the Was Up drop when the Aces and Eights appeared on the ramp. They were holding Brooke hostage. They also had a beaten Hulk. Ray limped out to make the save. The Aces and Eights released the Hogans. Hulk said things like, "My knee, my knee." Sting was left
Poor
alone in
Bully
the ring.
Ray trying to run up that ramp with a torn quad. hobble, 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 hobble.
Yeah.
That sucked.
Yeah. So Sting was left alone, and they kicked him in the face, and then they pinned him. The Aces and Eights won a match.
Yes.
Write this down, everyone. On Thursday, February 21st, 2013, the Aces and Eights won a wrestling contest.
Yeah.
Astounding.
They should have celebrated like Joe Park.
They did. They should have. And that was the show.
That was a show.
It was fun. It was paced well. Everything made sense. If you have this, you should watch that 8-man tag, which really was awesome. Otherwise, watch it.
You want to know why that goddamn 8-man tag was awesome?
Sure.
Not just because of the heel team and Joe Park and James Storm, but when Aries and Rude walked out, we're going to get the feud, Vinny.
We are going to get Daniels and Kazarian versus Rude and Aries. It's going to be fun.
I cannot wait. Titles on the line. Rude and Aries against Daniels and Kazarian for the tag team titles. I want them to come back to Kent with that match so I can pay money to go see it with my own eyes, live.
Correct. That is the correct answer, yes.
Yeah, that's how much I want to see this. I want to pay for it. So anyway.